Hey there, I'm Randy Zimnak, and in this episode, we're going to talk about how to make up for long market time and still be able to negotiate with confidence. So this story I really love, and I'm excited to tell you about it because this just recently happened and I'm even shocked how well this worked. So this client came to me. He's an investor client, right? And he had a property that has been on the market, and I have some dates, that's why I have this with me. It was on the market since April of 2018, right? And we are now talking January of this year. So quite a bit of time has passed since the property's been on the market. And he asked me to take over the listing. And I was like, okay, what am I up against? I researched everything and I'm like, oh man, this thing's been on the market for so long. They've had all these price drops, which is exactly what I don't preach. Don't list your house for way up here and then drop the price every single other week because it becomes stale, right? And that's what happened to this property. It became stale, right? Months on the market, right? So he came to me, I was like, okay, fine, I'll take this over. I'll do what I do, right? And however, I was like, you need to fix this, this, and this. I had like 3 items. I was like, I won't take the listing unless you make these small improvements. He probably invested about $2,000 back into the property. And trust me, that wasn't easy to negotiate. But I knew that if we do those things, that will make a huge impact. So that was number one. That helped me here. But second, what we did is we got vacation rental projections. You heard me talk about this. That's my little secret weapon. And we got vacation rental projections. And let me give you the number. It was $86,000 in revenue, potential revenue for this whole property, right? And this takes into account occupancy, vacancies, right? So usually it's around a 60 to 70% occupancy rate. So 86,000 of revenue. I showed it to him. I'm like, look, have you considered maybe holding on to this property if we don't get offers that you need? Because I did know his bottom number at that point, and things were getting little frustrating, stressful for him, right? Because he was basically at the verge of losing money. So I said, look, we have to consider plan B just in case. So I gave him this vacation rental projection and he was amazed. He's like, whoa, $86,000? I'm like, yeah. I was like, this is a really an amazing area, which it is. It's walking distance to everything. It's in the heart of San Diego. It's awesome, right? I could see this place being an amazing vacation rental, right? So now I could see his confidence started growing. He was like, wait a minute, okay, maybe that is a good option for me if we don't get an offer that I would actually accept, right? I was like, yeah, that I would. If this was my house, I would really highly consider it. But let's go through the next couple months. Let's see what happens after we get this thing listed and marketed. So that's what we did, right? We put the house on the market end of January. We did finally get an offer. February 19th, so about a month later, we got an offer, right? But the offer, we were $100,000 apart from my client's bottom line number that he told me previously. And his first reaction was, just tell him what my number is, and if he likes it, he could have it. If not, whatever, right? I was like, whoa, okay. This is our only offer on the table. You haven't had offers in a long time. Let's not panic yet. Let's not get emotionally into this. Let's just, so I calmed him down and I was like, let's just counter. What's your number? And he's like, you know my number. I was like, I do know your number, right? I was like, so is that the number? Yes. All right. So we countered at his bottom line number. And the thing is that before I did that, this buyer, so a little insight to this buyer, this buyer actually had experience in real estate, right? And decided to represent themselves. So I was speaking directly to the buyer / agent, right? So I really dug into their why and why would they want to buy this property. And then I found out their why, right? Their family was nearby. He had an office nearby. So it was like a perfect location for him and his family. Then I also explained to him the situation of my client. I was very honest and transparent that my client is having a bit of a hardship, that, hey, if he doesn't get this number, which I can fully support with comps, because there were comps to support what we were asking, that he might just decide to keep the property. That's his plan B, right? So I'm advised to keep this property on the market for the next few months. If we don't get his number that he needs in order to walk away from the house, he will most likely keep it and do a vacation rental. And I gave this buyer those projections, right? Because I knew if someone sees $86,000, that's gonna leave a very positive mark on their mind about that property. And his quick response was like, well, I don't want to do a vacation rental. And my response, I understand. However, wouldn't you want to know what you potentially could make with this house? Because that's what my client is planning potentially on doing. So I just want to disclose that to you. And I gave it to him, right? Because why wouldn't he want to know that information? But we're negotiating. So, right? So it was all part of negotiating. So now I got the client, the buyer, really emotionally connected to my client's story, which to me is very important. And I basically I wanted to make the buyer feel like I'm on his team as well as I am on my client's team, right? Because we ultimately all have the same goal. They want to buy the house. My client wants to sell the house. We want to sell. We're only $100,000 apart. That is it, right? So when I kept taking this approach, interestingly enough, I believe it was like within a week, he went up $50,000. I was like, okay. I went to my client. That's a good sign. He does want the house, but we're still $50,000 apart. I countered back with the number, which is the bottom line number, and I was basically a broken record. I was like, look, Mr. Buyer, you already know my story with my client. Like, we're still way apart. I thought he might maybe go down in price, but honestly, I don't blame him. He doesn't want to lose money on this property, and he has this other option of doing a vacation rental. So my leverage I just kept to that leverage. Since my client's confidence was high about that plan B, my confidence was high. And I was able to negotiate calmly, and I was just presenting facts. That's it, right? Because it was all truth. And eventually, believe it or not, it took us a month from when we got the offer to when he actually went up exactly $90,000 total from where we started. $90,000 because we stood our ground, we were patient, we used the plan B, which was very real, and kept communicating the same thing to him, even though he kept saying like, well, this house has been on the market for so long, you know, like, is there something wrong with the property? And what if I buy it and then I can't sell it in the future? Like, so I had to handle all these objections about the long market time. But the truth is, he just started way too high and the property became stale, which is what I don't advise doing. So I was able to handle those objections, use the plan B as leverage in negotiating, and ultimately creating a win-win for everybody. Because the buyer, he got a great house for his family. He's excited. It's actually worth more. The appraised value is more than what he paid. So he's fired up. Seller is excited because he got rid of the asset finally a year later from when he started in April of 2018 with other agents, right? And I'm happy because I got a buyer to go up $90,000. That's how you create a win-win-win. Analyzing a property before you buy it is obviously very important. However, what I find that most people just do it wrong. And I know that alone, one mistake could cost you tens and thousands of dollars. It could literally cost you your business. And I don't want that to happen to you. So I created a step-by-step property analysis guide sheet to walk you through exactly what to look for to make sure your deal that you're looking at is worth buying. To get the property analysis guide sheet, just go to randyzimnock.com.